Are you giving yourself permission to be who you say you are? To be who you think you are? Travis Sodawell, it's Pure Sound Daily Business. Peace. Tap into psychological type. And the different leadership styles, or just the different styles in general. Different character styles. Thinking of our internal world that we all have. We all have an internal world. We all have an external world. We all look within ourselves for learning, for information. We all look within ourselves to make decisions, judgments. We all look outside of ourselves, extroverted, to learn, to take in information. We all look outside ourselves to judge, to make decisions based on your best fit type, on your preferred way to learn, take information, your preferred way to make decisions on that information, judge it, is depending on, this is going to dictate how you take in information and make judgments on it. For introverts, they're going to be more looped in what I'm talking about. Meaning for introverts, what a loop is when you stay within the same attitude, which the attitude is either introverted or extroverted. So when you're only staying, for an introvert, when you're only staying within yourself for taking in information and making decisions on the same information, a lot of different words to describe that come to mind, but in psychological type, we call that a loop. Same for an extrovert. If you're taking in information outside of yourself and making decisions on that information outside of yourself, a lot of words we could use for that also, because these are things that exist in the world, right? We're using systems to describe the life we're living so we can understand it better. And one of the big pieces I took away from my coaching certification was, as a coach, we're giving you systems, structures, frameworks to work within and to shed light on the missing structures that you have, and working with you to correct them, to build them, take action on them, what have you. So psychological type is a framework, is a system that isn't asking the question if it's missing, because it exists. We have all these cognitive functions. We use them all. They are ways of the brain, like the ways we move information, ways the electricity goes through our brain, the ways of the neural pathways in our brain. Like, that's literally what this system's representing. Our favorite ways to use our brain. And to get caught up in only one way of taking information and making decisions on that information is what we call a loop, what we call unbalanced, one-sided. That's a literal thing. You're one-sided. You're only extroverted or you're only introverted. This is where we get into those words where we tell ourselves a story like, well, this is what I have to do. Why? Because of the thoughts I have in my head and the decisions I'm making on those thoughts. This is who I have to be. Why? Because of what I see outside myself, and I make decisions outside of myself based on that information. I see myself outside myself. And I'm putting myself into these ideas and these thoughts outside of me, and that's who I have to be. That's who I am. This is loop language. Again, this is a story you're telling yourself. So I think I'm going to focus a little more on the introverted functions and how our brain works. But let me land the plane on a point of this system of psychological type. And what I'm talking about now, the missing structure, if you will, is that if you're in a loop, and for the introvert, hand up here, one is talking, INTJ, when I'm looking at the information I have inside of myself and making decisions on that information within myself, which for me would be the patterns I see and how I feel about those patterns. That's my loop. That's how I loop. That's how I get one-sided. That's how I'm unbalanced. Because it's only all within me. What I need to do, what we tell people to do, is to use your extroverted function. For me, that would be my decision-making function. So I look at the patterns I see within myself, how I break them down, and then look outside of myself to make decisions on those patterns, the worthiness of them, so to speak. And that's a demonstration for my type. But the point being that you have an internal part, and then there's an external part to you. We tapping into the different energy styles. And I'm bringing up the internal parts, the introverted functions, which there are 4. And I relate introverted feeling, how you feel internally, and introverted thinking, how you logic internally, what makes sense to you internally. And I say this is a specialist energy. This is a specialized skill set. Say, with the feelers, and we all feel and we all think. The feelers, the feeling part of ourselves relating to the interpersonal dynamic, which I think is right on, inside of your personal, but also dealing with the interpersonal relationships with those who you work with, who you relationship with, who you vibe with, your community, etc. And then the technical aspect, where we're talking about the thinking part that we all have. And that it's specialized because it's yours. It's inside of you. So whatever it is, and if you really lean into this energy, you probably developed a very natural, specialized skill set of the interpersonal emotion, the interpersonal relationship, connection, interpersonal connection, and the technological information data. Because there is the skill, and then there is your unique experience, your history. So just by leaning into this, it's a very specialized skill you have. That's why I relate this to being specialist. Those are the decision-making functions, feeling and thinking, how we make decisions, the judging functions. So that's the other thing when we're talking about logic and thinking. It's because you're making judgments on, does this all add up? And when we're talking about the feeling, it's specializing there. And the judgment and decision is, does this align with my value, my values? And this is where I say the interpersonal connection, because then it's taking into account a lot of individuals' values. And then tying that in with your unique history, very specialized skill. Moving on to the information, the learning functions. Introverted sensing, introverted intuition. I call this the visionary energy. A plan. And they come from opposite ends. Introverted sensing coming with a plan with what has been done before. And introverted intuition has the plan of what can happen, what is possible through probability. So it's just not anything possible, but there's a probability to the connections of what we see going into the future. So these are opposite end of the spectrum visionaries. A visionary of what's been done, we could say historically. And this is specialized to them, their experience, what they've seen or what they've studied. That's where they go outside of themselves and get more information. But then they bring that within themselves and align it. And so a visionary plan of what's been done before and a visionary plan of what is possible based on the person's unique experience, their unique interests. So this is where psychological type and our character come together. These are tools, these are models to be used to build our character. They can shed light and give us clarity on who we are, but they don't tell us who we are. We become who we are. So tap in to your brain. And we always open here that we do psychological type profiling and also have people recommend that are far more versed in it than I am. But this is a big part of what we tie in and what we do that's special here at Pure Soundell. So this can uncover, not only shed light on our character of who we are, who we say we are, why we say we are. This also can give us a direction on how to more successfully have self-serving talk. So tap into how are you learning? How are you taking in information? And how are you making decisions on that information? And are you making sure you're going within yourself and going without yourself? Your own thought, as well as what's going on outside of you. It's Travis Soda. It's Pure Sound Daily Business. Peace.